be filling that role.
But he was here at the last time that they appeared at LAN, and I think that that makes a pretty big impact considering he's very familiar with the team, and
Sure.
I don't imagine it would impact the environment as much as what some people might expect.
No, and this, like you said, the sub for the spring split was around the team quite a bit. They all speak very, very highly of him, but this is his SCL debut, so we'll have to see how he can do. Chunga and Bologna going to be Obey's first 2 bans. Starboys looking at Mifflin, and then a couple different members with that Awilish and then Odin ban. Leaves open Susano for Mifflin in the jungle.
And that's a pretty scary sight already. Susano is a really high aggro jungler early on, and just the amount of pressure that he can exert, especially when he's roaming around in that jungle, is something to pretty much be wary of.
For sure, especially with the console guys really seem to love the Susano pick, even more so than the PC side at times. Zeus and Kepri going to be the response here from Starboys. Daily Dale going to be piloting that defensive Guardian, trying to save his mid laner's life, because Zeus, while putting out a lot of damage, does get pretty susceptible to the mobility of Susano.
I really like that Kepri and Zeus combination up until I saw the Osiris and Kern that Obey are able to pick up because of it. That is so much aggression. I can't imagine that. Starboys are going to have to be so careful with their positioning.
This is a lot of early damage and control between Susano, Osiris, and Keranos. All 3 of those gods are first pick potential, and Obey has all 3. Starboys, they go with the Cupid there with that AoE cripple to lock down the mobility between the Keranos and the Susano. That's going to be for Cameron there for Starboys, and immediately they start banning out some Guardians. Terra going to be the first one there. And I like this Circuit ban here from Obey Alliance. That early game pressure that they should have because of their draft thus far could have gotten shut down by that jungler.
Yeah, it's very easy for Circuit to get the taunt off on Susano whenever he's trying to link up his combination of abilities. So you remove that aspect, and you make it a little bit easier for life inside the jungle. And the Robin ban just adds on top of it. Osiris just doesn't have to worry about the contest from a Bologna or a Robin. That'll make it a lot easier in the long run.
Xing Chen going to be the selection there for Starboys. That's going to go into their solo lane. Unless it's something like Xing Chen jungle, but I don't think that's what we're going to be seeing here. Sol, the selection, one of Delta Marine's most comfortable gods, played it consistently during Season 3. It's taking a break a little bit coming into Season 4, but now she's starting to get back into the meta, certainly a strong mid laner. And then it's going to be Jelly with the Fafnir. What a team composition here from Obey. That is scary stuff, man.
That is an incredible draft. I think that any players who would look at the draft of Obey Alliance would just automatically assume that the early game just belongs to them. And I really like the Sol pickup, especially because she's been getting a lot of play recently because of her mage kit especially. Ever since her revamp, she's just so strong when it comes to burst potential. Yeah,
in that mid lane, but also has that late game carry potential that she used to have in the Hunter role. Now, she doesn't have that Fatalis on the 3 anymore, so a little bit more burst mage oriented, but still has that capability to be an auto attack damage, especially with that Coerce buff from Fafnir. You've got 2 characters between the Sol and the Keranos who can really benefit from that, and then just shred through the objectives. Starboys, how do they combat this this sort of composition that Obey has drafted?
Well, while Starboys won't necessarily have the greatest early game pressure in comparison to Obey's draft, they do have a pretty solid team fighting composition between the Xing Chen, the Zeus, and the Cupid ultimates. So as long as they're able to execute their comp properly, then they'll be able to pick up a couple of team fights once the mid-game stage starts to unfold.
Look at where Joey Donut is starting in the map right now. On that left-hand side into the duo lane. I don't know if Mancer knows that the jungler is going to be lurking behind him, already trying to trade some auto attacks, and around the back comes Joey Donuts. Heart bomb onto Mancer. He doesn't have his dash, and he's going to be in trouble here. Taco trying to get away. One auto is not going to be enough to do it, and Joey Donuts doesn't have anything else. Mancer narrowly escapes the first blood.
And that's probably best case scenario for Mancer, considering that if he'd taken a spill there, that would have been completely negating. It would have been perfect situation for Starboys because they need that kind of aggression.
Well, Mancer needs to make a choice here where he's going. Doesn't have that Death Toll, instead went for the Blue Stone, a little bit more clear oriented, but doesn't have that innate sustain. Does have the Health Chalice though, so 3 health pots ready to go, and that should be able to get him back into a healthy state. Already about half HP, did ding level 2. Do you like what he decided to do by going to clear the minis off the red and then rotate in?
100%. Starboys had fallen back, assuming that Mancer was most likely going to be backing at that stage. So it was safer for him to just secure those minis. That way when he catches the wave coming into his tower, he still hits level 2 all the same, and he knows that his purple buff's going to be invaded.
And once Mancer hits level 3, he has a choice to put a point into that Shifter of Seasons, the first ability, and then he has a little bit more lifesteal on top of that. whenever he's in that spring season, so certainly can end up working out for the Obey new addition, the new hunter for this veteran team. Across the map, basically even in terms of Obey. There's really the only lane where Starboys are getting pressure, and looking at their draft, I think this was the right lane to try and focus out and try and get pressure. Both invades on this left-hand side have been successful, sealing away Obey's red and purple. So Starboys, even though they're losing on the right side of the map, are winning on the left.
This is probably the only lane that Starboys could have possibly garnered any pressure from, though, because Mancer has the Current. They know that he's going to be by himself. They're trying to cut him off so much, and it's just impossible for him to try and farm out the wave. But looking at the other lanes, you've got Susano, you have Sol, you have Osiris. You don't win early against those gods.
Good patience there by Mancer to not dash as soon as he heard the teleport in from Joey Donuts. Couldn't quite find that kill. Around the back comes Mifflin. Crimson already in a lot of trouble. Shells popped by Daily Dale, and a good Rising Dawn as well to give Crimson some little bit more damage resistance there. Good plays out of the support, saves the life of his mid laner.
Mifflin took quite a chunk of health, though, from the archers. That's a significant amount of health to take a little bit of damage from.
Does have another health pot remaining. He will pop it and then go into the jungle, clear out those back harpies, and be healed up because of his Bumba's mask. Both supports have gone for the Lonos here, Taco. Now, Fafnir is used to being ahead in terms of gold, just because of his passive and then the Watcher's Gift, but this Lonos can make it very, very difficult to keep up with him in terms of farm.
It's already a little bit more difficult, I would say, on Daily Dale, considering that he's against a team that has so much aggro early on. And sure, they might be losing on that duo lane like we've discussed, but the rest of the map is pretty much under Obey's control. You can see Dworst immediately pressuring out, and so with the mask, Jelly is just going to be able to roam into whichever lane he chooses, farm up those stacks, farm up that additional health, and I think the health is probably going to be the bigger impact here rather than just the gold.
Either way, Jelly just now hitting level 5, a little bit behind in terms of XP, just because of how many waves Mifflin has split in that mid lane as well. Joey Donuts now leaving that right side, left, and heading to the right. No real pressure here. Dworst instead going to turn it around 2v1. This is what Osiris does so well. It's so difficult to box him, even when you've got the numbers advantage early on.
Well, Dworst does technically have a 3v2 there. He's got 2 of his archer buddies with him.
The lane minion's so important in terms of who can play aggressive in that solo lane side. Delta Marine and Jelly now on the way to try and invade these right side buffs once more. Joey Donuts is here, has backed and has boots too, now going up into the sky, looking for Delta Marine, can't quite find the dunk down. Mifflin is going to turn tail and run as well. Looks like Starboys are going to be able to secure their own speed buff.
That was Delta Marine's beat, so that he had to exert just to ensure that Daily Dale didn't grasp him long enough into the Thor ultimate. But the blue buff is a completely different story.
Now, how much does this really hurt Dr. Flick, though, in the solo lane? I mean, he's got that Mana Chalice. He kind of expected to not get a whole lot of blue buffs, and he's a Guardian. Does this really hurt him that much?
It's still a pretty big impact to Dr. Flick just because he's a Xing 10, and Xing 10s heavily rely on that mana regen from the blue buff. Plus, the 10% cooldown is also really nice.
Mancer getting the better end of Cameron there on that left side, but Cameron did get the purification beads out from the new hunter. Mancer coming around the back here, trying to steal away those oracles, decides not to, and instead finds himself in a bad spot. Heart Bomb gonna hit there off the abduct from Daily Dale. Joey Donuts doesn't have an ultimate, but the stun is there from that Heart Bomb. Mancer forced into the Wild Hunt, trying to get away here. Beads popped by Joey Donuts, but not quite enough, and now Joey might have put himself in a bad spot, has just enough mana to hammer away. Cameron gonna be in a little bit of trouble because of Delta Marine, who still has that Supernova ultimate as Mifflin comes in, can't quite find the pull off the Wind Siphon. That Scarab's Blessing is gonna be enough to get Cameron out of danger.
Joey Donut almost fell victim to the overcommit there. Luckily, the beads was early enough to get him out from the speed buff alone, but I'd still feel as though that was a definite loss for Starboys because now Obey have all the time in the world to try and pressure this Gold Fury.
Crimson wants to get in there, trying to get around the wall, drops the Lightning Storm, and that Gold Fury is going to go the way of Obey Alliance. The Supernova is enough to confirm it for Obey. No kills quite yet, but Obey continue to push their gold lead a little bit higher, nearing 2,000 gold now.
Zeus is very strong Gold Fury contest, but when he's by himself, Obey know how to time their abilities well enough that they can secure that in a team scenario.
Mid lane Siege isn't going to go too well for Starboys. Not enough early damage in order to get that mid lane tower off the map. No buffs up on the right-hand side either, so Obey don't lose too much for getting that Gold Fury right in Starboys' face. Only the fire elementals go the way of Starboys in response.
The Gold Fury timing was perfect too when you consider that Portal Demon won't be spawning still for a few minutes, so able to secure that early lead, and it might not seem too significant right now, but the bigger the gold lead earlier on, it just makes it easier for Obey to have control over time on that Gold Fury, because Soul is a perfect objective crusher, and if they have the timers in their favors, it's easy for them to keep trying to capitalize on it.
Jelly jumps over the wall, trying to assist his mid laner. Couldn't quite find the hammer on the Joey Donuts, who had already committed his. Could have been a kill opportunity, but either way, Obey Alliance are willing to play this one kind of slow overall. The right side of the map has been pretty heavily pressured by DeWorst, but their late game composition is really scary here, Taco, between the two objective shredders and the Soul and the Keranos, and of course that Fafnir come late game.
I'm actually surprised at how patient Obey have been, but this is where the veterancy starts to come into play for Obey, because they are more than aware that their composition is strong. They know that Starboys are looking to try and contest the speed buff at least, but I think that it's safer for Obey to not overextend, risk any early deaths, and then fall behind with a draft that's meant to have the pressure from the start.
DeWorst again going to claim another blue buff away from Dr. Flick. Has about a level lead right now. Has gone into the Mark of the Vanguard right after completing his boots. Dr. Flick started off with that Mark of the Vanguard, but still waiting on his next item, likely to be a Breastplate of Valor, the standard pickup for any Guardian in the solo lane up against a Warrior.
And plus some Breastplate of Valor would just help as well, since he already opted for the cooldown reduction boots. It's just easier. If he stacks up his CDR, then he can just spam his ultimate as much as possible, and the root. The root is also essential in team fights.
Mancer doesn't even have to use his Purification Beads to get out of that Fields of Love from Cameron. Good win there for the Hunter, because that's the whole idea behind the Cupid ADC, right, Taco? You just use your ultimate as often as possible, make sure that the enemy Hunter doesn't have any Purification Beads.
Especially when there's a Thor on the map. Joey Donut, all he wants to do is spam his ultimate onto Mancer. He's been camping that lane pretty heavily. It just hasn't been able to find a kill yet.
Mancer now the one playing aggressive in this lane, out clearing the opposition, and Joey Donuts immediately up into the Anvil of Dawn. Mancer doesn't get hit by that ultimate, but does use the Purification Beads anyways, also uses that Wild Hunt, and now Mifflin is here. Jet streams forward and finds Cameron with that pulled knockup coming onto that Typhoon, but the Scarab's Blessing is good from Daily Dale once more, again, saving the life of his Hunter. 9 minutes in, still no kills.
And Daily Dale has really just, again, been such a deterrence for Obey Alliance. They have not been able to find a first blood because of his presence. He's been able to root down opponents at the right time, been able to peel for his teammates, and that's just so much support from the support.
Daily Dale is one of those guys that has been on the cusp of breaking into the SCL a couple times during the SCL's lifetime, and I'm very excited to see him get his opportunity, because he definitely has the potential to be a really excellent support at this level. I mean, we're talking 2 saves now with that Scarab's Blessing, but the one that I think might fly under a little bit under the radar is when Mifflin comes around in mid lane before everyone's level 5, even no ultimates available. The well-timed shell and then hitting Erupt with that Rising Dawn, giving him that damage mitigation, saved Crimson's life there as well. So Daily Dale, without him, Starboys may be down 3-0 right now in terms of kills. Impressive play out of the support.
He's just had so much patience, and that's really an important aspect when you're playing the Khepri. You don't want to spam out that ultimate too soon, otherwise your enemy team's just going to sit it out the entire time. DeWorst
going to farm up these back right Harpies. Delta Marine could be in some trouble right now. 4v1 basically slowed, and tons of pokes damage onto the mid laner there. Mifflin going to go aggressive on the Dr. Flick, but not going to get hit by that stun. Double tap will connect there for Joey Donuts. Just a little bit of a skirmish right now on this right-hand side. No full commit from either team, despite Cameron's rotation over into the mid lane.
Gold Fury will be spawning pretty soon here, though, but now that Portal Demon is available on the opposite side of the map, I can kind of expect both of these teams to look for the initial aggression on the Gold Fury objective and then potentially transfer that over to Portal Demon.
No real XP leads. A couple levels here and there. Typhoon coming out. Joey Donuts in some trouble. Forced up into his ultimate. Is that dot going to be enough from Fafnir? It will. Jelly going to be the first blood, claiming the air onto Joey Donuts. The support, the first one to grab it, rooted out by Daily Dale, but DeWorst comes in and puts more damage on Dr. Flick. The rest of Obey is on this Portal Demon, already getting pretty low here, Taco.
And immediately, they just want to turn and burn onto Starboys. Crimson's having to run away. The Khepri ultimate is good, though, and Daily Dale, yet again, saving the life of his teammate.
But it brings Crimson into Mancer's clutches. He's going to claim his first SCL kill. He'll fall here to this Heart Bomb from Cameron. Nothing anyone on Obey can do. 2 for 1. Obey end up on top. But now Delta Marine's in some trouble boxing by this top right side. No mana left for the mid lane mage, but he's got the support anyways. All he needs is the auto attacks. Another kill goes Obey's way. Joey Donuts cleans up Mifflin, who stayed a little bit too long. All of Obey now forced back after that teleport in from Dr. Flick.
And this team fight has just completely 180'd for Obey Alliance. What looked like it could have been good was just too much overextending. Delta Marine trying to box out Daily Dale, and sure, Daily Dale took a spill for it, but now everybody's out of position, and Dwurst might pay the price.
And he will. Dr. Flick gonna claim his first kill of the game, 1-0-0 for the solo lane Guardian. And Starboys even it up, 3-3. Cameron is stuck around, courtesy of that sustain from his hearts, and now it's gonna be Starboys trying to get this Portal Demon. 2 members coming. Jelly get a jump right in. Throw the hammer onto Joey Donuts. The Portal Demon will go Starboy's way, and out pops Daily Dale, ready to support his team. Starboys just barely able to secure that objective.
The instantaneous pop through the Khepri just tells me that he was probably running into that wall, hoping that his team had the secure.
Well, they did, and so either way, Starboys down a little bit of gold still, down about 2,000 at this stage of the game, but last team fight goes pretty even there, Taco, overstaying there from Obey. Now Typhoon coming around the back. Crimson in a lot of trouble. That Purification Bead's not going to be enough to save his life as Mancer is going to claim his second kill. Cameron immediately tries to respond with that Fields of Love, but Mancer's going to be able to get himself out of danger. Don't know if I can say the same for Mifflin, who gets dunked on in the mid lane. Joey Donuts claims his second. 4-4 kills, all even.
You're almost expecting Joey Donuts to try and help peel for Cameron in the backline for his team, since he knows that he'd have his support, but they'd rather just secure that kill onto Mifflin, and he used his beads.
This has been very, very split, I would say, between the two teams. You're right. I mean, Starboys has kind of been all over the place in these team fights, and Obey is also that same sort of style where their team fights don't feel very cohesive right now. And I think that favors a team like Starboys that don't have that, you know, that cohesiveness, that time spent together that a team like Obey has. That if they can kind of bait Obey into these back and forth, all over the place fights, that should really benefit the team that doesn't have that veteran presence.
And, I mean, you do have to consider the Obey Alliance were still able to pick up the Oracle Vision on that Gold Fairy. It will last just a little bit longer for them, so they can still look for that aggression onto the gold if they want to try and bait out a fight from Starboys, maybe look to catch Cameron out of position. I think that Cameron's been having a lot of the credit for the chaos that's been happening in these team fights whenever he's dropping that Cripple ultimate.
Jelly can't find the hammer on Daily Dale there, but good damage coming out from Delta Marine. He's put himself in a bad spot to put this damage out, though. Is going to eat about a third of his HP, courtesy of that detonate from Crimson. Obey doesn't have the sustain that Starboys have, courtesy of Cameron on that Cupid, so Delta Marine does have some good sustain in it built into his kit, though. That Radiance, really one of the big reasons why Soul has kind of emerged into this meta once more. That early sustain so much better for her now.
The early sustain's kind of nuts when you think about it. I mean, when you have her one established at full points, that's like 25% healing to yourself, and that is an insane amount of HP to maintain and just get back in these team fights.
Mancer once more going to eat that Fields of Love, but the Heart Bomb off the mark there from Cameron. Could have just waited for that Mesmerize to come through and maybe could have cleaned up a kill there, but Mancer's going to be able to escape. Joey Donuts once more lurking on this left-hand side. Daily Dale's put himself in a bad spot. That Stellar Burst not going to hit onto the support, but a good amount of damage onto him nonetheless, despite that Mark of the Vanguard and Reinforced Greaves.
But I'd say that Obey Alliance are the team that probably had to be more careful in that narrow jungle alleyway, considering that Crimson's the one on the Zeus.
But he is 0-2, 2 levels down from Delta Marine right now, who's gone for this Bancroft's Talon, just a quick, big power spike right after those boots. And you want to talk about sustain built into Soul's kit, that Bancroft's Talon going to help out in that regard as well.
All that Crimson really needs to do, though, is connect to 3 Chain Lightnings, and that'll put a decent chunk of damage onto anybody that he goes on. There's
that chunk of damage onto Delta Marine, kicked below half HP. He's going to be able to escape, but this gives Starboys enough confidence to start up this Gold Fury with both Delta Marine and Mifflin pretty poked out. Jelly taking a lot of damage, just going to walk up and transform. Typhoon going to come through, only knock up Cameron as Joey Donuts takes to the sky looking for a target. It's going to be Deltamer. No, it's going to be Jelly, and immediately bursted down. Gold Fury getting very low, but Obey steals it. It's Mifflin getting in there and stealing away the objective. Joey Donuts now likely to fall. The Aegis buying him time. You can say the same for Cameron on the top side. Mancer cleans up the enemy Hunter as Delta Marine can't quite catch Joey Donuts. But a big play out of the Obey jungler locks down that objective.
Joey Donut, though, not completely out of danger, and Delta Marine will be able to find the secure. And now Daily Dale trying to escape with his life, but the tower dive's all too easy for a full health Osiris to make.
Dr. Flick is here, gonna put some good damage on a Delta Marine and Mancer. That disapparate, the perfect timing. Sunder comes through, but Mancer's able to dash out of the Furious Roar. He's got to turn and run, though, with Crimson coming. Mancer's gonna be able to get out scot-free. 7-5 now. Obey win the team fight and the objective secure. So close there for Starboys, but all of a sudden it's Obey's game.
Just bit off a little bit more than they could chew. Thought they had the secure with the Zeus. That's some strong secure when you have to consider a Zeus, but the Soul ultimate, that damage is just absolutely insane, and it came through. The timing was perfect by Delta Marine, and whiffing away that objective from Starboys makes all the difference in that team fight.
Now a 5,000 gold lead for Obey, only up 2 kills, but the experience difference is there in that mid lane still. Basically all of that 4,000 experience seems to be on Delta Marine. Now they're diving Crimson once more. Purification Bead's not going to be enough to save him as Delta Marine finds him once again. 3-0-4 for the 72 in the mid lane. Flick with a nice double knock-up and root combination there, but the damage coming out of Delta Marine is equally good. Delta Marine forced into his Purification Beads off of that Xing Chen ultimate. Cameron's ult not quite enough, but Joey Donuts is here trying to find this mid lane mage, but stunned out and peeled for. Mifflin gonna claim his first kill of the game.
Delta Marine completely chased down all the way from the T1 tower, and Starboys just unable to secure. They needed to just let Delta Marine go. But now the overcommit came through. Mancer's just happily chunking away in the split push of the T1 dual lane, and it's Portal Demon. They can look for the T1 in mid. They can also look to aggress onto the Portal Demon, but overall, that team fight was just so rough for Starboys.
Yeah, not the look they were looking for. Mancer gonna put more pot shots into Cameron, and now the Wild Hunt comes through. Cameron is gonna get soloed by Mancer. Welcome to the SCL. Mancer with a good debut thus far, 4-1 and 2. Crimson once more caught in a bad spot, and Delta Marine is chunking. Daily Dale forced into that Scarab's Blessing as DeWorst is coming out of the jungle. The 1, the 2, it's all good enough, and Crimson's gonna fall here to DeWorst's hands most likely. The stun comes through, and that'll secure it. 2-1-4 for the veteran soul laner.
And DeWorst was taking that Zeus ultimate and some T2 tower shots and not really feeling the effects of it at all. And that just goes to show you how far behind Crimson is now.
Pick up and toss DeWorst underneath that tier 2. Mifflin gonna be the one to tank it up for him, though, as the rest of Obey focus it down. Look how quickly that tower falls between Soul and Carnados. Mancer is all of a sudden level 18. I don't know where that came from, but he's gotten a lot of farm on that left-hand side, and then Cameron showing up and getting solo doesn't really help that issue either. A lot of gold going Obey's way right now. All of a sudden, what was a pretty close game is no longer 12,000 gold in the lead, 10,000 experience as well. And Obey Alliance in control.
It all just started to spiral out of control, really, from that Gold Fury loss. The second Gold Fury going the way of Obey. And then on top of that, the team fight for Starboys just not being handled well at all. They just split up way too much, so it made it easier for Obey Alliance, especially having the Susano present, to just chase down the necessary members that they wanted to pick off, and then even look to dive underneath the T1 tower.
Joey Donuts immediately up into the sky to get away from that 3-man rotation onto the right side. Dr. Flick is sitting at level 15, only a level down from DeWorst right now, and has a good amount of HP online with that Winged Blade, but still needs to be wary of how much damage he's going to take from both Mancer and Delta Marine 72, who has that Obsidian Shard completed, now working towards a Rod of Tahuti. This problem's only getting worse, Taco. It's not getting any better.
The issue here for Dr. Flick is that while he's not necessarily that behind, everybody else on his team is. So even if he looks for the setup potential on his team, they won't necessarily have the follow-up damage to help him with anything.
Cameron gonna dashes away, but he's in a lot of trouble on this left side. Delta Marine is coming around the back. Deli just jumps right over and finds him on this purple buff. That's going to be enough. Mancer 5, 1, and 2. 12-5 now. Obey in the lead. And the rest of the team for Starboys is not really doing anything with this time. I mean, Obey is in the lead, yes, but the 3-man rotation to the left could have happened there to kind of cover Cameron on his split push.
I'm kind of expecting Obey aligned. Mifflin's just poking away at Crimson because he's Susano and he can get away with that, no problem. But Obey are taking this Gold Fury, no problem as well. And that's only going to push this gold lead now to a 14K gold lead. That is really brutal, especially considering the draft that Obey are running.
Yeah, and Crimson has really fallen very far behind. He's 4 levels down now, 0, 4, and 1, and doesn't really have a lot of damage to his name. Only that Dynasty Plate helm and pen boots could help him out in that regard. The Wingblade is a pure survivability option, but might be too late for that. Joey Donuts meets Jelly coming out of that jungle. Shouts to the minion, though, blocking away that Stellar Burst.
As a mid laner, I would probably prefer to just opt for the damage route as opposed to the survivability route, because it's very evident that Obey are willing to just hard commit to Crimson. They want to keep the Zeus out of the team fights. They don't want to let him make an impact whatsoever with his ultimate. So because he's opting for the Wingblade third item, I don't think that the times when they are committing to him where he could possibly drop his ult, get some chain lightning damage off, and just the detonate, it won't be as effective as perhaps a damage item could have been.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. He's going to die either way, right? You're Zeus. You're dead. No matter what, if the enemy team focuses you, it's just a matter of how much damage you can put out before you fall, and that Wingblade is really hindering how much damage he's going to put out before he falls. Either way, it's going to be up to him to try and get some damage out, regardless of the build, as Joey Donuts now getting chased down by Mifflin in that mid lane, knocked up by the Typhoon, but now Mifflin's the one in trouble, forcing up both of his relics. Cameron dashes forward, trying to take the 2v1. Joey Donuts looking for him as well. Does find the stun, and that's going to be the kill. Joey Donuts combines with Cameron to kill Mifflin, but it was just a distraction. The right side, the tier 2 tower, fell in favor of Obey.
And Mifflin's probably more than happy with how that engagement turned out. Not only does he burn 2 ultimates from Starboys just to secure a kill onto him, he also takes Joey Donuts actives, and sure, it cost him his own, but his teammate picking up that extra gold and having the map pressure open up on that T2 side with no towers remaining. If Obey want to choose, if they choose to chase Starboys, there's really nowhere for Starboys to escape to.
I think that's the big thing, is that there's now no towers remaining for Starboys to defend their base. Only the Phoenixes. Very difficult to come back, though it is fair to say that there's a lot of gold left on the map for Starboys to take. Right now, you've got 2 tier 1 towers and all 3 tier 2s. So if Starboys can find a couple team fight victories, that's a lot of gold waiting for them, but that's easier said than done to win a team fight when down by 20,000 gold.
When Obey Alliance have secured this, when any team in general has secured this large of a lead, you start just pressuring the Fire Giant, and like we just went over, without those towers remaining for Starboys, it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to try and contest in the Fire Giant pit, because if they look to defend Portal Demon, they'll most likely just get ambushed and die. If they look to try and defend the Fire Giant, sure, the steal potential's there. You have a Thor on your team. You've got the Cupid ultimate as well, which can be incredibly effective, locking people down into the Fire Giant pit. But where do you go if the enemy team decides to follow you?
All the way to the Phoenix. That's the only spot you've got left, basically.
But then the Fire Giant's free.
Then the Fire Giant's free. Right now, Obey is trying to be the ones to get the Portal Demon. Joey's wall broken by the objective there. Mifflin put some good damage, but Joey returns it in kind. Good double tap there, all by himself. Portal Demon getting very low. It is going to go down, and Obey's the one to secure it. Flick got in there and tried to make it happen. Donut looking for Mifflin most likely. Doesn't have any relics. Is going to find him. That spin is going to be enough. Joey Donuts finds Mifflin and escapes on the backside. Good kill there out of the jungler.
Very strong pick by Joey Donut, but knowing that his ultimate is down, Obey Alliance could definitely still look for the aggression onto Starboys. That Thor ultimate and Joey Donut has been a really big factor as far as securing the kills, because he's probably dealing the most damage. Yeah, he actually is dealing the most damage on his team. And because of that, if Obey know that his kit isn't necessarily going to be available, or at least the big stun factor of it isn't, it's pretty difficult for them to try and contest.
Starboys leave this Fire Giant wide open. Now they've got the man advantage, but both Crimson and Cameron both backed on that left-hand side of the map, and now it's going to be Obey looking for the objective. Flick gets saved by Daily Dale, so Obey immediately back towards the objective. Another good ultimate coming out of the support player for Starboys. This might have bought enough time for Crimson and Cameron to get here. Mifflin, he's going to the left-hand side to defend the split push coming out of Joey Donut. As Mancer keeps this Fire Giant leashed, already getting very, very low. But again, Obey peel off the objective and look for the fight. That Zeus ultimate not on the mark there from Erupt Crimson. Mifflin on the left-hand side. DeWurst finds 2 with that Lord of the Afterlife flick, picks him up and tosses him away. DeWurst continuing to handle both damage dealers and the front line from Starboys, but he's in a little bit of trouble there. Meanwhile, Obey are going to secure the Fire Giant. DeWurst sacrifices himself for the objective, but you know that he's happy with that outcome.
Not to mention that DeWurst is tanky enough to where I don't think that it'll make a significant impact of whether or not he has the Fire Giant. It's one of those win more kind of details where if you have the Fire Giant on top of the Osiris defense, sure, that's awesome, but if you don't, you're probably still not going to feel it as much as, say, an AD carry might or a mage.
I'd like to retract my statement. DeWurst probably isn't happy. He would have liked some peel, some help maybe, but either way, it doesn't really matter. His team gets the Fire Giant there. Gold Fury was started up by Obey, and Starboys seem pretty eager on fighting this. It's Mifflin's on that right-hand side. This is 5v3 right now for Starboys, but DeWurst does have his teleport. Could come into that fight pretty quickly, and Mifflin, after picking up his speed, already on the way over. The very mobile assassin, even when on the other side of the map, can get to a fight very quickly.
Considering that Obey are pressuring the Gold Fury, just to ensure they don't really need the gold, but they're just ensuring that Starboys can't possibly take that Gold Fury and try to look for any sort of comeback potential. Plus, now they can just pressure either the mid or left-hand Phoenix for Starboys, and either of those Phoenixes are going to be very strong considering they're very far away from the Fire Giant.
Mancer stepping up, the first one in there. Now he's looking at this Phoenix. Wall comes out from Joey Donuts, but it's not enough to get any kills quite yet. Lightning Storm's out from Erupt Crimson, but again, not quite enough. Flick throws Jelly in, but immediately gets bursted by Delta Marine's ultimate. The mid Phoenix falls to the damage between the Caranos and Soul. Delta Marine wants to keep going on this left side on the Joey Donuts. A couple members are pretty low here. Delta Marine about half HP, Jelly as well, but as you mentioned, Taco, these characters are just so tanky at this stage of the game. I don't know if it's gonna matter. Frenzy is enough to knock down Daily Dale immediately. Mancer finds another 7-1-3. Welcome to the SCL, Mancer. Congratulations. That's a victory for Obey Alliance.
That Titan just